going out there tonight?
Well, you stumped me now.
Check out our website, MannimalResearch.com. Thanks to everybody. Hello. How's it going out there, everybody? Hope everyone is having a fantastic night. Everybody had a good weekend. Everybody is doing well. Joined tonight, as always, by my partner, my buddy, Mr. Jasper Walls. How's it going tonight, buddy?
Hey, man. What's up? Pretty
Not
good.
a whole lot.
Still kind of recovering.
We had a fairly exciting weekend that we will get into here in just a second. But before that, let's do like we always do and ask everybody, if they don't mind, hit that subscribe button. We sure would appreciate that. And after the show tonight, whenever you get a chance, I ask that you head on over to MannimalResearch.com. Check out our website over there. Report your encounters, your sightings, all that good stuff. Get information on the group. Check out some pictures and stuff that we have up, and get information on doing your own research. Maybe even like the gentleman we're having on tonight, become a member of Mannimal. We have a brand new member that we're going to be introducing tonight, and he's going to be going over some of his stuff, which going to be starting off with a Dogman encounter, which is pretty cool. And we don't do a whole lot of those, but he's had some Bigfoot stuff too. But we're going to start off with the Dogman tonight. Also, everybody's got a Facebook. We know that. Head on over to Mannimal Research on Facebook and become a member there as well. So yeah, guys, do that. We would appreciate it. All right, buddy. Before we get into anything, what's been going on with you?
Oh, nothing, man. Just working, recovering from the weekend and everything.
Before we start going into our expedition, which we got a lot to talk about, man. It was an eventful weekend, to say the least.
Yeah.
As you know, we had this thing planned with the old bear. Him and his wife came down, and they were going to film an expedition, and then the very next night, which was Saturday, we were going to do a live where he was going to interview us and a couple other people that we had with us. We show up at the interview site, and old bear gets some terrible news. He got a phone call. The place where we were at, you weren't able to get service, so we don't know how long they were trying to get a hold of him. But when we got out to civilization, and he got a phone call that his daughter was in bad shape. And as you know, we were in Southeast Tennessee, and they live in West Virginia, and they found out that his daughter had some bleeding on the brain, and they needed to get back. So they took the news pretty rough, and they left right then, and they headed back. And I've talked to old bear since we've been back, and they have done an MRI on his daughter, and it looks like she's got some tumors in her brain. So we want to ask everybody if you would just say a prayer for his daughter and him and his wife and just the whole family. They're going through a really, really hard time right now. So guys, keep them in your thoughts and in your prayers, if you don't mind. I know you wanted to say something about that too, Jasper Walls.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I know guys, and everybody knows him on here. Everybody, he's been here. You know how, if you believe and you don't believe, you can believe and you pray. If you have family and kids, just like I'm a father, Wayne's a father. I'm sure a lot of you guys that's on here as fathers, mothers, it's something pretty big. Just think about your own kids for this and say, definitely get a prayer for them and keep him up. He'll see this. I'm sure he'll see this later on if he does, but it's been pretty rough. I think it's bothered a bunch of us because family comes first, guys. That's the thing. Is family comes first. He tried to apologize. We're not going to take the apology because family comes first. It's just plain simple. Anywhere working, anywhere, family's first. It's bothered me pretty well because I thought about my kids and my girls and stuff, and I'm like, oh, what would I do in that situation? Just kind of put it in that way, guys, and send out prayers, whatever, however you can, as many as you can, and hopefully, God will work His magic and His healing powers, and everything will hopefully pan out and for the best is what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I'm sure you're watching, Old Bear. If not, you'll watch it later. Just we're thinking about you, buddy, and you and your wife. Glad we got to meet both of you guys, and just a couple of great people. They really, really were. You can tell they're a good couple. They get along real well, and you can tell that they're both being they're really hurt by this, obviously, and I'm just glad to meet them. And guys, we'll continue to pray. All right. So we got the sad stuff out of the way. We did have, like we said, we did have some crazy stuff go on this weekend, and our guest is back there waiting, and he knows it's going to take us a few minutes before we can get to him because we do want to talk about a little bit about what was going on. You want to start us off, Walls, or you want me to?
What on some things will happen this week?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can. Well, getting there, getting there and everything. We actually got. We was actually surprised with everybody. We got Bear, and we actually had Ninja Dave. I can't even say his name. Ninja Dave show up with Miss Janice Carter, which was huge. To me, it was huge because to me that's a celebrity in the Bigfoot community and everywhere else, and it was awesome. Guys, I've got pictures of I sent them to Wayne, and we might be able to send them up. I've got one that I still look at that is a massive print. The picture really don't give it its justice how big this thing was. We actually had our first, it's our first tree drops pushed over. I mean, some massive trees, not no little bit, massive trees was pushed over at us. We had possible, I think, with our guests and I think we had possible Dogman around. Could have been, not 100% sure. I don't know what else more to tell. I mean, it was
we got there Friday morning. We set up. We did an investigation Friday night with all of us. There was about seven, 8 of us out there. Good investigation. Found some ground sticks. Found some prints. Also some sign of bear. Which always kind of worries you. And also found what looked like an area where something very large had been laying down. Looked like a little bedding area. But that. Just like Old Bear put it that night, we saw more that night than most people will see on an average expedition. But I guess we're just spoiled because we have some really good places, and it just didn't seem like a whole lot that first night because we're used to seeing that stuff, the places that we go. But the next day is when things started to get really interesting for us, started to get into area of stuff that we're not as familiar with. We, as I told you before, we had a separate site set up to do our interviews, and Walls and I went by ourselves over to that area just to meet the people. And Walls knows them, but I was meeting them for the first time, and we were going to have a look around. And there's a lady that lives there and with her husband, and the lady wasn't feeling well. She was inside, so the husband took us outside around back. And guys, we weren't out there 2 minutes before we heard what sounded like just a massive tree falling in the woods. There was no wind at all, nothing. It was calm, quiet. Something either pushed it over, or it was a coincidence that this thing just fell right when we walked out there. But I've never heard anything like it in my life. It was a big tree that we think was pushed over not 2 minutes after we got there. And it was just three men standing out there. And the lady thinks that lives there thinks that they've kind of taken a liking to her. And I don't know how to make that, don't know what to make of that. But I mean, it would make sense if they did like her, they did feel like they were protecting her, and three guys are standing out in the backyard. Something pushed a big tree over, kind of showing some aggression. Clearly, that's speculation on our part, but we do know that a huge tree was pushed over or fell. Yep. So that was really weird. And we got to walking up a trail. The guy took us out walking up a trail, and you thought you got something happened to you, right?
Oh yeah, my possum in my first sighting, I would say. It was a really quick one, if anything. We were actually walking up. I was walking up. That's before I got to the big print coming back down. Peripheral vision out of the side. I looked that way, and that looked like I saw a big head, black side, just shoot behind a tree and just disappeared. I can put it as it could have been maybe a squirrel. Some people will say that, but it was too fast and too quick. Is usually squirrels will go up the tree, not side the tree. And yeah, it was pretty spooky at the time. I mean, wasn't to scare us. It was basically watching. I think that's when we also found the TP sticks, the big X.
We got pictures of that stuff, but I got such a late start tonight. I've been busy all day that I didn't get to upload them. So we'll have those up next week. Before we bring our guest on, we'll show you that stuff.
Yep. I was pretty damn. What we got, I don't know how to explain it with the other stuff that happened. I mean, I know Wayne, I know you got scared just behind your car hearing something crash behind our tent. And we couldn't find nothing, but
that was later that night.
Yeah, later on that night when you was behind the car, I was cooking and you got jumped. And you was like, "Whoa, what?" I remember you doing that, man. And other than that, I mean, this was a huge.
Patrick, my buddy Patrick here asked if we got any audio, and a couple other people have asked. It rained all weekend. It was miserable. And like I was saying, that tree fell 2 minutes after we got there. We didn't have time to get anything out of the car. Mm-hmm. And the other stuff that happened, it all happened at times that we weren't ready. I mean, when are you ever ready for stuff? I mean, somebody might ask, but no, short answer, no, we didn't get any audio, and it was raining so much. I don't know if you could have picked much up anyway. But
with what was going on, it would rain so hard, we'd have to be hunkered down, and then it would calm down and slack off, and that's when everything would break free. And we're like, okay, crap. That's just like you said. There's no way we could have expected it or been ready for it. I mean, it was just.
Yeah. So after we finished up our little walkthrough with the property owner there, they have 7 acres, and they actually live in North Georgia. It's right on the Tennessee-Georgia line. After we finished up with him, we went back to our campsite, shared that with everybody else, ate a little dinner, cooked us up some hamburgers, hot dogs, and we were set to go back over there with Old Bear to do our interviews, and that's when we got the news from Old Bear and he had to leave. But some more crazy stuff happened that night. We were there with Janice and Ninja Dave and you and myself and the property owners, and there were several tree knocks. We heard several big limbs falling. Like I said, it was raining really hard. It was miserable, so we were all huddled underneath this big porch that they had, protected from the rain. But we did get out in the rain some, and that's where a few of y'all heard the chatter, right?
Yeah, I was hearing it. I mean, I tried to get you to hear it, but for some reason you just wasn't able to hear it. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I was standing right beside you, and you would look over at me and like you had to hear that. And I was like, no, I mean, I don't know.
It was like it was right next to both of us, between us, and then, I mean, and the only way I can explain what I heard was a gurgling chatter. Everybody else, well, with Janice and them, they, everybody knows her, how she was speaking to them, but I could hear it, but I couldn't make out anything. And then we'd hear the tappings, the tree knocks, and I mean, it went. And we felt safe there. We didn't feel threatened. Mm-mm. That was the cool. We didn't feel threatened. The chatter was there. That was the first. I guess that'd be a first for me too. Actually hearing something chatter. I mean, you did have your experience with something laughing at you at one of our other sides. Yeah. So I guess it was my turn to get a chatter.
Yeah, so that happened there. We wrapped things up there again. The lady of the house wasn't feeling well, so we stayed there for a couple, maybe 3 hours, probably not, but between 2 and 3 hours, and then we went back to our camp. And this was Saturday night, and it was starting to get close to midnight, around 11 o'clock. That's when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah,
it got crazy. We were there sitting under, again, it's pouring down rain. We're sitting under the canopy around the fire, and we cooked up a couple more hot dogs, and I was getting ready to go lay down. Everybody was talking, a good conversation going, and I had already gotten up, went into the tent, and was getting ready, to lay down. I came back out for something. That's when the second tree fell or was pushed over.
Yep.
Again, all this time we've been doing this, never in my life have I heard a tree fall in the forest. The whole time we've been doing this, I've never heard a tree fall. Walls hadn't either. And within about a 3 or 4 hour span, we get two, about 40 miles apart at two different locations. That was weird. I don't know what to make of that. So that tree falls. It's so big that it covers the highway, because Janice and Dave went out to see if they could find it, and it was covering the main highway out there, probably about 200 or 300 yards away from where we were.
Mm-hmm.
But they get back. But while they were gone looking at that, Walls and I start walking down the street at the campsite, and we're about 40 or 50 yards away from our campsite, the two campsites together. Something throws this massive limb like off of the ridge, and it lands between our two campsites.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they waited until we walked away from the camp, and then a huge limb just falls and lands between the two campsites. It was crazy. So we started walking back over there, and then Janice and Dave get back. We tell them about what happened, and Janice is telling us about all these feelings that she's having. She doesn't feel safe. She thinks that we should leave, that we should pack up and leave, because whatever was around us wasn't friendly, did not want us there, and she was getting all kind of signals and stuff. And y'all know how I feel about the woo factor. I don't know what to make of it. I try not to lean toward it. I lean toward the biological side. These things are flesh and blood. They're animals. They're something that we just haven't caught up with yet. That's the way I've always leaned. But Janice thinks that there's something else. She told me something about myself on that trip that I've never told anybody, or that she didn't know, that only my close family knows about me. Walls didn't even know. And then she did the same thing with Walls. She told him something that nobody knows about him. Could just be a coincidence. I don't know. But I mean, it was weird. So some strange things happened this weekend.
Yep. I mean, as he's saying, Janice is having feelings. I'm actually was having tensed body muscles, tense like as almost like I was back when I had my encounter and I was tensed in protective mode and just like, okay, something. And I believe that's when I told you, I said, something's going on. I'm tense. You went and got your your firearm, and which I even had a time where I heard somebody walking in the gravel behind me, 2 steps, and I thought it was Dave. I yelled at Dave, say, "Hey, you back there?" He comes from the car, nowhere near that spot. And Janice's daughter heard the same thing. She was there with us, and we both heard the steps and like, what? And then we also kept hearing sound like somebody snoring close to it.
Yeah.
And when we shine a light over there, there'd nothing be snoring. Y'all, it was a very, very eventful and crazy night. And you either this has been in my mind since Sunday, since we did, something was telling us to pack up and go. And that's what happened Saturday night. We actually left early. We packed. My stuff is still rolled up in the dang car, and we got out of there. But the feeling that I had, and I asked Wayne earlier, was as soon as we left the area and we was further away, I was, and pardon my French, but I was pissed because we should have stood my ground. And to me, I understand. I do, like Wayne, I believe in the biological. I believe in, our Bigfoots. I believe in, and now I'm getting to where I'm starting to believe about Dogman, and because there's more and more evidence or something's coming up. I believe in the spirit. I believe in Holy Spirits. I believe in, paranormal. Somewhere it's racked my brain. Somehow it's connected. I believe it. I am 99% sure that somehow paranormal and Bigfoot is connected some way, somehow, with people saying they've seen orbs around them being in cemeteries, which is the holy ground. Y'all, I'm telling you, I'm 99%. It's somehow it's connected, and I'm usually one that's usually more skeptic than on that side. It should have been this. No, it was this. Not after the night that Saturday, no. But I tell you this, I'm not going to be stopping what I'm doing. I'm not going to be scared of it, and I don't care. I won't mind going back. I'll go back again.
We'll go back. We'll be back. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to. Nothing's going to scare me away. It's just like I said in campsite. I'm not going to fear something except God, and that's it. I mean, that's just the way it is.
That's it.
I'm thinking right now, just even thinking about it still. I mean, I want to go.
There's little things that you can't fake. That that feeling that you get like something's wrong. You can't manufacture that. I don't think. Goosebumps when someone, because I looked at Walls' arms, he looked at mine, and we had goosebumps at certain times. You can't fake that kind of thing. The feeling like something's watching you. If you feel like something's watching you, there's probably something watching you. And we had that feeling a lot this weekend. And a lot of it had to do with Janice being there. I really do.
I believe it. And I loved it. I don't care. I'd have her back again. I don't care. If it's
absolutely.
I mean,
and I guess we can go ahead and announce, because we got the confirmation. But as we've talked about our 50th episode, coming up and the giveaway that we're going to do. That 50th episode, Janice is going to be our guest.
Yep.
She confirmed it on this trip. She wanted to come out with us and meet us and see how we were in person before she committed to coming on. And on the trip, she said yes, she'd love to. And I asked her, what do you not want to talk about? What can we not ask you? She said anything. Ask anything that you want to know, and I'll talk about it. If it's something I feel like I can't talk about, I'll just tell you I can't talk about it. So guys, that's to y'all too. If y'all have any questions that y'all been wanting to ask Janice Carter, the 50 years with Bigfoot lady, the habituation lady, her and her grandpa, and most people know who we're talking about. If you have anything y'all been wanting to ask her, she'll be on for our 50th, which will be November 9th. So it'll be another reason for y'all to tune in and watch that.
I think one more thing is just make this clear, guys. I don't think we had the interview was supposed to have been set up as Bear and our group, was it not, Wayne?
Mm-hmm.
It was I think a day or maybe the day before. Wayne got the text and Ninja Dave said, "Hey, we're going to come and hang out with you and bring Janice." I mean, it was awesome when he told me. We didn't send an invite out. Somehow, you can call it coincidence. You can call it whatever. Something brought both of them towards us. Something and then everything went like it would. I mean, I don't think it would have. I think it would have been calm like normal, like we've had before. I really think that would have happened. Because we've been in some areas that are, and the craziest thing about it, we had more people camping near us than we've ever had. Our sites that we go to are so out there that there's no signal to this place neither, but there is no signal where we're at, and there's hardly anybody around us. This, we had more people around us, but it was only our campsite that was getting, I guess, messed with.
Yeah. And Duke here, he's been on our show before. He says Janice has been on my show a couple times. A fun interview. Yeah, she told us about you, Duke. She thinks highly of you. She thinks a lot of you. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that we told you that.
And Janice and Dave, if y'all are watching, guys, we appreciate it. We
Dave's watching. Give a shout out to Dave. Haven't seen Janice on here just yet. She did just join our Facebook group. I got the notification that she requested, and I accepted her happily. But I don't see her on here. If so, she hasn't said anything just yet. But yeah, well, we've killed almost 30 minutes talking about that. We got a guest to.
We got a new member to I guess what do they do in college? Initiate.
Yeah, initiation. All right, guys. We want to welcome a new member to Mannimal Research, our investigation team. A new researcher to our team. He is from Georgia and Northeast Georgia and South Carolina, both right on the line. He's going to be working in both those areas, and he's going to come on and talk about some Bigfoot stuff tonight. But one of the things that he wants to talk about, and what we're going to talk about for a good bit, is his experience with Dogman. And he had an encounter, and he has some family members that had an encounter, but he actually had a visual of this thing. And he's going to come on and give the backstory to that, and then give his encounter. And got time after that, we'll talk about some Bigfoot stuff. But I do want to welcome, and I hope everyone will give Kenny a warm welcome, and just welcome him to the family, to the group. With all that being said, let's bring him on.
Oh.
There he is. How's it going, buddy?
Well, hey, what's going on, fellas? Been a great, interesting show. Been very interesting. Very intrigued.
Yeah, you were supposed to come out with us, but weren't able to make it, unfortunately.
No, it turned out to be a bad weekend. Truck set me down, so couldn't make it. But been great if I could.
Yeah, it sure would have. We took up a lot of time talking about this expedition, so we're going to get right into it and talk to you before we came on and told you that we'd start talking about this Dogman encounter first. We'll open up the interview with that. So with that being said, I'm going to hand the floor to you and just take it from there and walk us into it. Get as much detail as you can. Okay, buddy?
All right. Well, back in it would have been probably early spring. It'd been 2000, I do believe. Had some issues going on the farm. It was actually my in-laws' property and the neighbor's property.
Is this in North Georgia?
Yeah, over northeast Georgia. Far northeast corner of Georgia. Could have, we thought, okay, it could have been whatever, but then the great grandmother, or would have been grandmother in-law, she had other stories to tell, and she had raised baby goats, and so did the neighbor, and they raised boar goats, registered boar goats, beautiful little boar goats. But you know how aggravating goats can be, also at the same time. But he had horses, and he had a few head of cattle and everything. But throughout the time, she always liked to nurse and raise little infants and things that mother wouldn't take care of. She worked for the forestry service, the grandmother did, and she'd had a few stories to tell, which will tie all into the long of this, where the actual everything happened at was all within a quarter mile really of this property. It's a beautiful little area. It's maybe a half mile off of the Chattahoochee River. I guess if you go direct, but it's over a ridge. The Chattahoochee goes through a valley down in below, and it was all woods. There is a neighborhood back in there, which is another long story that I did a lot of work into, and it's right on the other side of a WMA, which is 650 acres. And this neighborhood is a gated community that I did work on back in 96 and 97. I was probably, I think I was 14 when I started. My dad was into some property developments and a few other things, and with a few other friends. But all woods, all river. It was also very private and secluded because people were not supposed to be over in that area unless they were either directly related to working in that area or property owners amongst that area. And it all started though. I think it was 2000, and it had been in 2000. It would have been probably October to November. We left out one night. It was kind of late. We were pulling out of the driveway. Now, we had fences on both sides for at least 300 yards because it was all pasture. Now, to our right, as we pull out, is the neighbor's property, which he had, like I say, he had the full registered boar goats, and he'd had property damaged, and he had also had goats missing. And his dogs. I mean, we rely on dogs a lot. When we're farming, the dogs will let us know if there's something messing around. But his dogs, like I say, they weren't running and going wide open. And they would only go and let him know so much. Well, he did not lose anything for the little bit that I was there. This was within a 6-month period. But his animals were scared. And but one night, it would have been November, I do believe. It would have been early November, because my ex-wife, she was pregnant with my daughter at the time, and we were leaving out. And as soon as we pulled out, as soon as we went past maybe a quarter mile, coming out of the graveyard to our left and a church on our right. And you got to think this is all in a triangle period. it was foggy. The coyotes started crossing the road. I slowed down. And I'm in a Bronco 2. It was an old 87 model, I think it was. But it was sitting up on a 3-inch lift with brush guard. And this huge wolf basically stopped on the double yellow line and stopped and let these coyotes 8 to 12 pass and looked at us as if it dared us to come any closer. And it was me, my ex-wife, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
You okay?
It was me, my ex-wife. Like I say, she was pregnant. We were all sober, and a friend of mine that had been a friend of mine since we were 12 years old. And I stopped the Bronco, looked dead at it, and we all stared. And this thing stared at us. It seemed like it was at least 30 seconds to a minute, and it probably was close to 15 seconds. And it was huge. It was
Was it on all fours or was it standing on two?
It was on all fours at that time, but it dared us with everything it had, I guess, as far as eyesight goes, and it basically dared us to basically come on. And I sat there with it. Well, as soon as about the 8th, or there was somewhere about 8 to 12 coyotes crossed, I lost track of that because I was too busy looking at how big he was. And when I say big, he would have came up. Now I'm 5'11". He would have come up to my chest, which come up to about where the top of the brush guard would have came up to on my Bronco 2. And so he would have been 4 feet at his back. And
wow.
He was a dirty, mangy, kind of a dirty, mangy tan and gray. But like I say, the weirdest part when I really put it together is that he came out along with the coyotes out of, like I say, a graveyard. But if you drop straight off the backside of that graveyard, the river and the woods go straight on down. That was very weird. Our whole evening was, okay, well, we go on to Walmart.
Now, can you describe a little bit for everybody that's watching us what exactly he looked like, and what makes you what told you that this was a Dogman or something like that, other than just a weird looking coyote? Since it was with the coyotes, what tells you that it was something different?
He was twice to 4 times, probably really 4 times the size. And me being a bad judge of character of weight, probably would say he was 250 to 450 in the range. He never pulled like completely sideways. He turned his head. And I don't know if people are familiar with like plot hounds and a German Shepherd cross at the same time, as far as a head goes. He had a huge head on him that would have dwarfed a good sized German Shepherd and a plot hound. He was his head was twice the size, and he looked kind of mangy but muscled out at the same time. So I mean, it was a very weird. His back was kind of arched also.
Okay.
Didn't really see much of a tail. I don't recall still to this day seeing much of a tail.
What did Janice tell us about the tails on these things? He said that when they're a pup, they have tails, but as they get older, they don't lose the tails, but they kind of retract in. They don't really have a tail as an adult, if I remember right. So you say you don't remember much of a tail?
That's right.
No, I mean, now if you think about it, and kind of like what you said, but I was fixing to explain that. Have you ever seen, how say a red heeler or Australian Shepherd holds their tail?
Mm-hmm.
They hold it in, and so you might just see a little tip come out or a little bit, but other than that, you really don't see it until they're full fledged, maybe running, and they point with their tail, or they'll use their tail for, I guess, weight maybe, or I don't recall seeing a tail. I was so focused and enamored with the size and the look of this thing, and
Yep. While we're looking it up on Legends of Indian, my Indian heritage over here, about something running with that, which is in the folklore. It's supposed to be a coyote king, but the description for a coyote king is like it has a tail. As you're describing, this thing possibly doesn't have tail, and the dogmen are only supposed to have tails during their pups. So I think he's got a sighting, man. I think he got a Class A sighting of a dog man. But that brings the question: is why was it running with coyotes? That's unless it was raised by them or something as a pup, and then
Here's you a question from Mr. Mercedes Jimenez. Did you see the snout or the nose? And if so, describe it.
yes, and the snout and nose were not of a German Shepherd, nor of what I would consider a big block-headed plot hound. It was kind of in between. No, I didn't see teeth. I do not recall seeing any teeth, just a large muzzle.
like flat or long wise, like slender.
It had the length, about twice the length of what a normal German Shepherd would have, but it had the blocky, kind of a block head and a block muzzle, more like say maybe a pit or a plot hound. It was large, and when I say large, it wouldn't have been probably 6 or 8 inches would have been probably the guesstimation on that.
One of our regulars here, Mr. Crave Dog, says he's heard a few stories of dogmen running with coyotes. So that's cool. Thanks, Crave Man.
I kind of answered my question.
I kind of to this day think that they will use coyotes because coyotes can maybe help them when they're young and they don't have a pack of their own. And coyotes, coyotes will take up with dogs. They'll take up with humans. Depends on who's feeding them and who dominates. Coyotes are they can adapt to anything and everywhere, and that's kind of my theory on that.
Now, you said that you're about 5'11", and this thing on all fours, you would guess would come up to around your chest, right?
It would have came up to. It would have been a good 4 feet tall.
The back would have come up to your chest.
The back would have came up to my chest.
Now, guys, I have a Great Dane. He's about 200 pounds almost. Walls, you've seen him. You've seen how big my dog is. My dog's massive. He's huge. And he comes up to about my waist, and I'm 6 foot tall. So we're about the same height. And my dog comes up to my waist. So if you're talking about one that comes up to your chest, that's terrifying.
That'd be that's the same height as my wife. She's 4'11".
And if my dog is almost 200 pounds, you might not be wrong if you say 400 pounds, 350.
Yeah.
I guesstimated looking at him, but just because of the way his back was arched when the way he was sitting. But that here's the other interesting is he had been shot quite a few times. He had came in and it came in on the goats, and the neighbor that owned the goats had actually shot this thing. And we looked, and here's the crazy part: he shot this thing at probably, I think, 75 yards by the way we guesstimated before.
This your uncle you're talking about that you were telling me about?
No, this is a neighbor. This is a neighbor of mine.
Okay.
This was a neighbor. This was an old neighbor. This is This is my ex-in-laws, and this is their farm, their property. This gentleman's into, big into his roping horses and cutting and all that. But he's got a beautiful little small farm. It's not huge. I think they may have maybe 80 acres, probably. My ex mother-in-law, actually, she sold her property to him, and she's decided she wants to travel now. I was trying to get in touch with him, other than just going knocking on his door. I didn't get a straight answer when I was trying to, figure out more things about, what really happened, because it's been on my mind for years. Even talking with my ex-wife, me and her hardly ever talk, but I asked her about it just out of the blue, and she's like, "Yeah, I remember that." So it was kind of an odd situation, but there was one night though. This was during all that. He called, or there was a phone call. I think it was Mama called, which was a great grandma. And then Donnie was out. We were inside the house, which we were probably 100. It's about 150 yards. Trying to imagine like out of a triangle. Say we were at the point, and of the triangle on the far end, you're looking up, and his goats got herded in. Now he had sectioned off pastures, and he came out and he shot this thing. I heard the noise, the racket. There was a bush line, and that's when we went. I heard and I saw the figure of this thing and a few of the coyotes, but I had to get on over the bush line and the fence. And by then it was kind of too late. We met up, we followed a blood trail, and it just stopped completely. There was a dead goat, damn near decapitated, where he had hold of it by the back of the neck, and the coyotes, everything left. But when he had the spotlight on it, I saw it from the back porch through the bushes, and it was the big boy. And we went probably 100 to 175 yards, and all of a sudden there was no blood trail again. And
Kenny, did you with the sighting, did this thing, when it got shot, did it make a any kind of sound, like on top of laughing, or it kind of sound like a coyote laughing, or did you hear anything when it got shot? I mean, usually a dog gets shot, it usually yelps.
Yeah, it made some racket, but it didn't last very long. He said it was a gut shot, side shot. He just shot on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I came out with a rifle. All I had was a 22 mag. It's the best I had. I was at the in-laws, and but when we followed it, it didn't last long. It was 100 to maybe. I'm trying to remember the distance between there. And then all of a sudden, it just pretty well stopped. And this was through an open field, and we're probably maybe 30 yards off the fence line, and it goes into a whole nother little wooded and fenced area. Not too sure about that area over there. Never actually walked around it, but don't know.
Number Mercedes Jimenez has another question for you. Did his legs look human? I seen a picture of one that looked human with paws.
No, I don't really think the back legs. Be honest with you, I was too busy looking at the front side and don't recall much about the paws. I looked like basically at a dog, at a huge dog
Okay.
on the front side. Other than I don't recall a tail. I remember the back being arched, but don't recall anything much more than seeing a dog. It's just the fact that they were losing.
What color was it?
It was a tannish gray, like a dingy brown / a gray color.
Okay.
It was a dirty look. I mean, just like flat out dirty, almost. I mean, kind of like it'd been rolling in the red clay and then maybe finding some pluff mud or something to play in. And like I say, when I say it looked dingy, that was probably half the dirt and the mud on its fur. But it was from the side I saw and the stance it took at me and the vehicle. It was a dingy.
Okay. Now, you had made the comment that it had been shot a few times. Could you tell by looking at it that it had been injured before?
Maybe by the arch of its back.
Okay.
Maybe the way it was carrying itself. But like I say, when I say though it stood in its back, and I wasn't, including the arch of its back. The arch of its back was probably 8 inches over, which would have come up a little bit over, the brush guard. But other than that, the shoulder stance that it had, it was still even. It was at least 4 foot.
So it's like a humpback. Would you say?
That or have y'all ever saw a dog or a bear? Have you ever seen a bear that's full of worms? Or a dog, how they'll carry themselves? They'll arch their back because they got like a hookworm, and they'll carry themselves kind of funny.
Okay.
When they carry there, and it may have been eat up with hookworms. I mean, yeah, I don't know, but it was still pretty healthy, but it just looked kind of mangy to me in a sense. But it was still a large, muscular.
Okay. All right, man. That's crazy. Crazy sighting. It sounds like you got a pretty good look at one. How far away were you?
By the time I actually stopped the vehicle, I never got over probably like 25 mile an hour within that probably quarter-mile range. It wasn't far. It was pretty foggy. Kind of just drifts of fog. It had been raining a little bit. It's getting in the fall of year. I don't know. You know how the mountains go. You get patches of fog, and all of a sudden it's kind of clear. And it was just in one of those clears. So we were probably maybe 80 to 100 feet away. It wasn't not very far. And I had bright lights, like I say, KC lights. I had KC lights. If y'all remember what the old KC lights are out there, they're kind of getting faded out now. They used to be that on the brush guard and all that. But I had the KC lights, I had my bright lights, and I also, like I say, have my my ex-wife. She would probably talk about it, but it scares her, and she freaks out about it. And then I have a friend of mine. Me and him have only mentioned it 2 or 3 times out of probably 20 years. I actually haven't got to talk to him about it, but he would be an interesting, conversation to have with it because he's a very detail-oriented person. And he was back then, probably a little more detail-oriented than I was because I'm thinking we need to go get baby formula from Walmart that night. That's the only reason we were leaving out. And he had a bunch of construction going on at his home, and was just kind of hanging out with us, and needed a place to stay, and we were all having a decent little cookout. He was a real good friend of mine, and still is to this day. But
So there was 3 of you in the car, and all 3 of you saw this thing.
Yeah, all 3 of us sat there and stared at it.
That's something right there. It's not just one person claiming to see something. You had 3 adults that saw the same thing, and were all shaken up by it. So that in itself says something.
You when you was able to, or friend was able to shoot it and it took off running, did you happen to see possibly if it was panting then, or possibly got a glimpse of the teeth possibly then, like how opened the mouth or
no,
anything?
never saw any panting. It was not. There was no effort, no panting, no normal trot or anything with that. I don't recall much about the coyotes even doing much panting or anything. I just remember them going in the background and trying to kind of like there and visualize and see it. And I saw them. They went when they came out of, like I say, they came out of the graveyard, which, like I say, directly behind the graveyard was a real large patch of woods, and within quarter to half mile probably down is the river, which is kind of untouched property, and a pretty decent section of land. And then as soon as you cross the river from there was 650 acres of completely untouched. They didn't allow anybody back in there for a long time. They finally opened it up as a WMA, 650 acre WMA, and that was probably 10 years later. But they kept everybody out for a long time.
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to. We're coming up on an hour. We can go over a little bit because Walls and I went a little long talking about our stuff, but I want to switch gears a little bit and go over to the big guy. You told me the first time in our initial conversation, the first time we ever spoke on the phone, you told me about something that happened at. You're gonna have to refresh my memory because that's been a little bit about something underneath the house. There was something found underneath the house, and I remember that shocked me. Could you tell that story, please?
Yes, I will gladly tell this, and this is something that will be a very interesting spot to maybe investigate. But this is part of family property. The old houses, excuse me, the old house is a 2-story old house. It probably would not be more than 800 square feet at the bottom, but a 2-story with an equal level upstairs. The old porch, and you've got to imagine this is an old home place with a spring head. They don't have a well. It goes up a small valley. And like I say, up into the left hand is all woods, all back in behind it goes straight up a mountain. This old home place is family members, family grew up there. But I grew up there, and we had black Angus cattle, grown and raised. Half of them were born and raised there. But they were my family members were getting older, getting some age on them. They couldn't get out and about like they used to could. But so we started, coming in, doing everything we could take care of. But we ended up having a 800-pound cow go missing, completely missing, and ended up finding it underneath this old house, which is sitting up on rocks. If they didn't have bricks, so it's sitting up on the rock / block brick foundation, and the porch would come up. It comes up. The porch comes out. Imagine, like I say, basically an 800 square foot. It will be probably 40 feet long by 20 something feet deep, as far as the main rooms go on the lower level, and then the porch comes out with about a 10 or 12 foot front porch, which is about, like I say, chest and neck high in that direction, along with me. Like I say, I'm 5'11", 6 foot, and it goes all the way back underneath, and it stays to about probably about hip high, right up underneath the kitchen, and drops down, and it goes under pretty well, all the way pretty even. And we found the remains of this cow all the way back underneath the kitchen, which would have been no more than 2.5 and 3 feet. And there's
So
no
an
way
800-pound cow
100-pound cow. We found
basically was dragged underneath the house, would you say?
The bones and the hide were completely all the way back in there. And there was not much hide due to, I guess, maybe the coyotes or whatever, but it got drug under. So that would have been, by the time it went into the kitchen, that would have been a good 60 foot back in. And like I say, it leveled and it evens itself off kind of as it goes back. And that was one of the weirdest things I think I ever saw in my life.
Now,
and also,
go ahead.
Also, you know, we would get phone calls. Hey, the mountain lions are making racket again, and we would show up, and at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, you'd hear screams of what would you think would be a mountain lion, unless you knew what a mountain lion sounded like, which was really weird. And the dogs would either hide under the aunt and uncle's house until we showed up, or they'd stay right at the door. And when I say the dogs, they were red-nosed pits, and they were not scared of anything. And then there was a beagle mix that would run all day long, all day until nighttime, and he'd make sure he's back at the house. And the weird part about it is back into the left-hand side, if you're going back to the property to where the old home place was, and the road never really got to venture into that. Was just always told, nah, well, it's too steep, or you just stay out of there. Or, you know, that was an animal crossing also, by the way. Bear, deer, everything would cross. But it's also a very dry ridge and a very dry mountainside up through there until you come down to this spring head. And
so
a good creek, a good spring head.
This house that where the cow was found, was it vacant at the time? Was anybody living there?
Nobody has lived there since the I do believe the early 40s. It was re-roofed in the 70s. They went ahead and put a metal roof on it. There were windows in it at once upon a time, but they kind of ended up, you know, getting knocked out, rotted out. I'm not 100% sure on that. But there was a metal roof put on it in the late 70s. And it was.
Guys, try to wrap your head around that and just think about that for a second. An 800-pound animal. Picture an 800-pound cow in your head right now. Underneath a house. The cow wouldn't go underneath the house on its own. I mean, why would it? So an 800-pound animal basically was dragged underneath the house. What could do that?
That would have been at least 40 feet. At least, I think 45 feet probably back to where the main frame was really sitting. And
800-pound cow.
When I say a main frame, I'm talking spinal, rib. There were a few pieces laying around due to coyotes and stuff, but the main pieces were back underneath where, you know, we could bend over walking in there, and then get to it, and then we'd have to kind of get down on our hands and knees to get to it.
Wow.
And like I say, there's plenty of wildlife in there. And like I say, when we used to get called and say, hey, there's the mountain lion screaming again up in here, and that was a regular basis. And to hear DNR say it, we don't have mountain lions, but yes, there were mountain lions around, but they're not going to take that. They're too busy with the deer and everything else that they can handle. And I know that for a fact because I lived on up the road in old family property, and we had an injured mountain lion, and it stole puppies off my porch. I had puppies. I had 3 and 4 week old puppies, and I had a glassed in porch with 2 doors, and I had the one door closed. And the mama dog, when she would get up and wander off, the mountain lion was injured and stole 3 puppies and ate them. And I came home. Yeah, this true story. I can get my other ex to back that up. She'll tell you. It was on our roof, walking around on our ceiling, and my dogs were going stupid because they had it treed on the roof, and it was injured because it had been trying to run calves, and a neighbor had shot it, and I was awake. I got woke up by the gunshots due to the muzzle blast coming and basically rattling our windows the way the ridge ran. And mountain lions, they have a whole another tendency. The way they do things is just a lot more cleaner. And if they're injured, they're going to hang around. Other than that, you're not going to see them. They'll.
This we got a question here from my buddy John, a fellow member of Mannimal, lives down in Rome, Georgia. I want to give you a shout out, John. How's it going, buddy? Wants to know how do we know if the animal was drugged under there intact and not dismembered? So it was a full animal, right? It was a whole carcass.
Yeah, the carcass, the skin, some of the skin. It was under there. It wasn't bits and pieces of it. This was still in a skeletal frame, other than a leg bone or 2 here and there that were within 20 yards of steel being in front of the old home place and around it. This was a full skeletal, like the ribs, everything was getting worked on, of course, by the other rodents, but this was a skeletal, a full, with part of the leather and the old black Angus hide that was still there. This wasn't a.
And Bigfoot sightings were pretty prevalent around this house, right?
I think there were. Like I told you before, I was told no, I could never go venture up to that left hand side, back on that upper hand.
Yeah, your family told you never to go around there, right?
We never. Even my dad, and we went everywhere. If me and my dad went somewhere, we went everywhere. And me and my dad never even ventured up in there. He just said, "Nah, we didn't." My uncle, we'd always ride around in an old tractor. He had old Ford 3000 that smoked blue. It's crazy, but he had the old Ford truck bed trailer, and he'd pull it around with the tractor, and that's what we'd hauler hay with. And I'd be back in the old trailer, and we never. I was always told never to go up in there. Anywhere else, I always went.
Did they ever tell you why?
Other than it was just too much wildlife. That's where the bear trails and everything else came down. No, but when we showed up, at 10 o'clock at night, a few times when it come me and my dad show up, to hear the mountain lions screaming, they would be screaming, and that's where it'd be coming from, back up in the whole side of that ridge back in there. And like I say, when you're looking at this property and you come into the house will be on the right hand side. It's not far off the road. It's just a couple, maybe 50 yards off the road. It would, you start facing back in, like I say, imagine it as a triangle, and you're looking back in, and it would be to the far end of that peak where, back in, like I say, behind the house, the old home place, and the old spring head, and back up into that left hand side. That's one place never got to venture. Other than that, I've been everywhere. I've even been back in and above and around by the old road. Been back in and above it, but never have got to venture into that left hand corner up in there. And it's weird because I've always got, every time I walked out the old road that veers back around to the right and goes back into the old home place, you always feel like you're being watched.
Yeah.
And even me and my buddies, when we were younger, we used to go back in there a lot. After the cattle and everything, had to get rid of the cows, everything. Just nobody could keep up with them, and so ended up selling all the cattle off. We tried to keep everything bush hogged, back best we could. There's a few other people deer hunt on back in, like I say, to the right hand side, and I don't know that they go into that little left hand corner. Be interesting to find out why they don't. I've never actually got to venture into that out of all my life. And my grandmother had a few interesting stories about going out the old road and then crossing what was the highway going to her grandmother's house. And then my great uncle, he always had interesting stories to tell about a lot of things that he had speculation on. Now he rode, he had to ride a horse to town, to go to work at the mill back in the 30s and 40s in his days, his military days and all. They rode horse to town to go to work, and he had quite a few interesting stories. Now
this is Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. It says Bigfoot are known for stashing any size carcass under things as well, like root systems under huge trees. One guy found a bull moose under a fallen tree's root system on a riverbank. Not bear activity. So let's tell you something, man. They're known for it.
I believe that. I do. I really do believe that. And then when I grew up, on down in what they call the valley. I'm not going to completely name everything, but I've had a lot of interesting activity going on down in the valley. Where I grew up at. Well, my horse and my dogs and everything, and never really thought anything about it. I just let my dogs do what they did, and then my horse, whenever I'd be trying to go down a trail, and this animal, she was a very intelligent horse. She was what I call a lead horse. She was a boss mare. She didn't fear anything. She would run a coyote down with me on her back if they come out of the trail and try to stomp them. Snakes, she did the same thing too. She was very aggressive. She was, like I say, she was a Appaloosa and quarter horse, and they say App horse and quarter horse is about half crazy, but that was one of the best horses I ever had in my life. But she would stop. She would lay her ears flat down and stop and spin. And when she would spin, she was spinning like she was trying to cut a horse, cut a cow out or something. Because I worked with her cattle a little bit, and she would go ahead and back out, and then spin around again to take a look after she got 20 or 30 feet away. And she would do it so fast sometimes, I'd be all relaxed, sitting there just riding and enjoying the pine thicket or whatever. And I'd watch her ears go down, and I knew I had to grab a hold of something, and she would spin. And my dog would even go with the horse, and my dog would be acting curious, and then we'd just go on through the woods another way, like nothing ever happened. And I never put any thought into that, but
there's so much out there, looking back in life that, for me anyway, looking back, things that I remember happening to me as a kid in the woods that I couldn't really understand, that makes makes sense now. But we're at an hour and 15 minutes, so we're gonna need to cut it off right here. Kenny, buddy, I appreciate you coming on. We've been talking for a little bit, and glad we finally got you on.
I appreciate it very much. And I'm going to seriously say, if I can get a chance, I'm going to go by and talk to the old neighbor and everything. He was a great guy, and he's got more stories to it. Like I say,
Okay.
The great grandmother, I'd like to, spin that part too, but I need to get a little more information on that. She had a pretty well face to face and supposedly shot something, with a 410 shotgun when she was doing something. But I need to get a little more info on that, and I could feel a lot more information in if I can get in touch with this fella. I just haven't had a chance to go by and see him.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. You get in touch with them, start to fill in, some of the gaps, and we'll have you back on to fill it in, and then we'll all get together and go on an expedition. We'll have some more to talk about. But I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it very much. Everybody enjoyed, and like I say, I may have a few more. Got a few more things I'd like to talk with you about too. It's kind of a weird. It'd be a quick conversation, but it was a weird. But I'll share that with you also. I think it's more Dogman related. Not like I say, still not 100% sure. I think something saved me that evening, and the savior was a couple other people showing up. It's a very interesting evening. But
we'll talk about that next time too, buddy.
All right. Well, y'all have a good evening, and I appreciate the time, y'all. I've enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, we have too, and we will be in touch, buddy. Looking forward to making our own stories with you. We'll get together soon.
That sounds good to me.
See you, bud.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, man. Yeah, our first Dogman show, I think, went really well. I believe he saw something. There was 3 adults in the car, so they saw something.
Well, I want to address one. I think one of our people in there saying something about checking on Old Bear. The situation with Old Bear is we won't have anything to upload because we had to wasn't able to do the interview because of his daughter being rushed to the ER and everything. So guys, just like in the beginning, say your prayers tonight. Keep saying them. We'll try to update you next week. And if we find out any more, we'll let you guys know too, keep you updated, but keep praying for him and praying for his daughter. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably some people on here that missed that at the beginning. Old Bear had to cut his time with the short this weekend because his daughter had a situation and it's not looking good. But yeah, guys, keep him and his family in your prayers if you would. With
our show, this kind of confirms me more and more. There's something else. There's other things out there than Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I didn't want to believe it, but there's just too much there. There's too much there.
That's true.
And I'm looking up, as he's talking, looking up the stuff from the Native Americans and everything. It dates back to the Indians. They've seen these things. They've seen this stuff. And I didn't want to, but I can't. It's logic, man. I can't. The evidence is there.
If more than 1 or 2 or 3 people are seeing and reporting the same thing, you have to give it some attention. You have to look into it. And there's something else going on. It can't be dismissed. And everything I hear, they're not a very friendly bunch.
Looks like I'm gonna try to invest into a little pistol then, instead of my knife and stuff.
Need something a little bigger than that knife to carry around with you, buddy. I've been trying to tell you that. All right, great show, guys. Had awesome audience participation, like always. Had a big crowd tonight. Had quite a few watching us. We appreciate that, guys. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, family, and help us grow, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
You got anything else before we get going?
Just guys, keep, like I say, keep Obear in your thoughts and prayers. Him and his wife and the family. That's pretty much about it, guys.
Absolutely, that is right. All right, guys. Everybody, take care of each other, and guys, just be good to each other. And we will see you next time. See you guys.